As President Edge, has shared a lot of the viewership statistics and the reach of those championship events, particularly the men's championship being, positioned right before Division I March Madness games. There was a huge viewership, and we continue to be contacted by alumni and other fans all across the country that said that they were tuned in and watching, and that includes prospective student athletes that I think you make that impression on, that they want to be part of that. It's one thing to go play your sport somewhere. It's another different opportunity to be able to chase championships, be they conference championships or national championships. People want to be part of that success.
Welcome back to Building a Champion, the podcast where we dive into what it takes to create winning programs and build a culture of excellence in athletics. Today, we are talking about a historic accomplishment. For the first time since 1984, a Division II school has won both the men's and women's basketball national championships in the same season. That school, none other than Minnesota State University Mankato. To break down how this incredible double championship season came together, we are joined by Minnesota State Athletic Director Kevin Buisman. Kevin, welcome to the show.
Hi, great to be on. Thank you for having me.
We're so glad to have you on with us. What an incredible achievement that you guys took home last year.
Yeah, I mean, reflecting back on that, I mean, I've had a long career at Minnesota State. I've been here since 2002, and that double national championship, winning 2 titles in less than 20-hour span has to be right up there with all-time great memories here.
Yeah, that men's team, they took home the title with an unbelievable last-second three-pointer to beat Nova Southeastern 88-85. Meanwhile, the women's team dominated Texas Women's University 89-73 to secure their second ever national championship. Mm-hmm. Kevin, let's start with that huge moment, the men's championship game. That three-pointer with just 0.8 seconds left. That is the stuff that legends are made of. Walk us through that final play. Did you know it was going in the second it left his hands?
Yeah, I mean, it was remarkable, a flair for the dramatic, winning on a last second shot like that, Willingham to Willingham, the older brother to the younger brother. And it's just kind of one of those Disney moments. And yeah, I had a really good sight line on it. I had moved down to the bench area to be prepared for, what would ensue after the game, win or lose. And standing right there in that corner with the athletic trainer and the strength conditioning coach. And we knew when it left his hands, we all had our arms up signaling 3 points as well, helping the official. But yeah, we felt really good about it when it left his hand.
I imagine the arena had to just erupt at that moment.
Yeah, our fans were all seated right there behind our bench. And, it had been kind of a tussle back and forth. And at different times they had the upper hand, and we would surge and get to a point where we felt maybe we had a comfortable lead and we're going to put this thing away. And then it got close and came down to that last second shot. And yeah, it was just a great fan reaction, a great moment.
Amazing. And the women's team wasn't exactly short on drama either, beating Texas women by 16 points in a national championship game is dominant. What was the key to the level of that control?
Yeah, I mean, they had some moments in the Elite Eight where there were some closer games and some dramatic moments themselves, some last second heroics to continue to advance in that tournament. But it was interesting. We shared a hotel with that team all week, and as the field narrowed, just got to be the two of us at the same hotel. It was getting a little interesting, kind of passing them in the hallway, in preparation for the game. But yeah, I think they really wanted to make a statement. They talked a little bit about the redemption tour, where we had faced some of the programs in the regions and at the Elite Eight that had beaten us earlier in the year. And we had a key player, Joey Batter, All-American point guard, had a injury to her hand early in the season, and we had dropped some games, and it was really kind of a point of inflection of rebounding, from those early season losses and having a chance to atone for them in the postseason. And they really made a statement to cap off the championship that night.
And it's not just about those final moments. It's all about the journey to get there. The men's team actually lost to Minot State back in January when they were ranked number 1. How did they bounce back from that loss and get stronger heading into the tournament?
Yeah, we talk about resilience and facing adversity, and there were definitely moments along the way for both teams where they had to kind of reset and move on. And I think that's part of what we talk about is how these experiences, student athletes, will translate to life. There are going to be times when you face adversity where things don't go exactly as you had planned, and you've got to be resilient to that. You can't just pack it in, fold up the tent and be crushed by those moments where you face adversity. And so we try to help them understand how these experiences as student athletes are going to be valuable to them in their personal and professional future.
Most definitely. Love it. So the women's team, they had to go through you, Mary, in the conference championship, teams they were very familiar with. How did they prepare mentally and physically for the tournament?
Yeah, our women's team plays a very unique style of basketball where they press full court from the opening tip until the final buzzer, and it's a different style of basketball, and so there is a little bit of advantage in sometimes that unfamiliarity when you're playing somebody outside the conference that has not seen that style of play. So I don't think it's anything that you ever get completely used to, kind of that frenetic pace. But yeah, it's definitely a challenge when you're facing opponents that are familiar with your style of play, have seen that attack and that style of defense earlier in the season. There's not that element of surprise, and so as they say, it's oftentimes the most difficult thing is to beat a team consistently, and to beat them a second time or sometimes even a third time. And so I would give a lot of credit to our coaches and staff and being able to refine the game plan and show them just a little bit different wrinkle each time.
Now, winning one national title is hard enough, but winning 2 in the same season, that speaks to a deeper championship culture. What would you say is the foundation of that culture at Minnesota State?
Well, it's something that we talk about, building champions. Ironically, I love the name of the podcast because it aligns very closely with our branding tag here for Minnesota State Athletics. And I think when you initially hear building champions, you maybe feel like they're a complete focus on success and competitive outcome, but really we're trying to convey that as in building champions, we want our student athletes to be champions both in sport and in life, and kind of a three-legged stool where we want them obviously to be able to excel competitively, but also in the classroom and the community as well. And I think that establishes that foundation and that culture. And it's really about recruiting people that have, faith and belief in that foundation into the program, and kind of pre-selecting who's a good fit for that and who can subscribe to, that foundational culture of building a champion and not just have a focus. After all, it's student athlete. Student comes first. And you really do have to have a buy-in to kind of not overemphasizing just the competitive aspect of it. And so I think it's recruiting the right people into the program that subscribe to that culture, and all the credit to our coaches in identifying people that are going to be a good fit to that expectation.
What are some of those traits that they're keeping an eye out as they are recruiting?
Well, I think it's probably that holistic approach and learning more about that recruit than just their athletic prowess. How are they doing in the classroom? What do they do outside of the classroom? I think you can get a lot of insight just in the family dynamics A lot of them are accompanied on recruiting visits by mom or dad or both, and sometimes a sibling. And you get a good sense of that person in the way that they interact around their family and how they interact with others during their visit. We give them an opportunity to interact with our teams, and I think they start to understand what that culture is about and how do they react to that when they're on campus for their visit.
That's huge. Huh. It does portray a good picture. So it seems like both teams had an incredible mix of veterans, leadership, and young talent. How important was that balance for the team's success?
Yeah, I mean, you're always looking for some level of balance amongst your 4-year class, that you don't get top heavy with, a senior dominated roster and kind of turn it all over at the same time. And the transfer portal is thrown a unique twist into things in being
Sure.
able to kind of rebalance the roster and mix those folks into the roster as well. But yeah, as you mentioned, for both the men's and women's basketball teams, we had unbelievable senior leadership. And the Willingham brothers. Kyrese is still on the team. Malik, that senior leader, being from Wasika, just 30 miles east of Mankato. It's neat to kind of have that regional presence on the roster. I think that resonates well with our fan base in terms of being able to identify with local high school talent joining the Mavericks, and so that's been a good recipe for us as well. And then on the women's side, Joey Batt, an All-American guard, 30 miles to the west of us over in New Ulm. She provided that senior leadership, and I think that it's part of indoctrinating their teammates into that culture of what it means to be a Maverick and being part of the MavFam. That they impart that and kind of bring those young players along, and in some cases blending in new talent via the transfer portal. There were definitely some impactful student athletes on both the men's and women's rosters that were transfers into the program. So it's an interesting mix of trying to blend that senior leadership with the younger talent and talent transferring into the program.
From an athletic director's perspective, what kind of support system is in place at the school to allow teams to thrive at that high level?
Well, I certainly think that we make a significant investment from a resource standpoint to try to put our programs in a championship mode where they're resourced to compete at a championship level. But we'd be the first ones to say that you can't just simply buy a championship. It's a lot of a variety of factors, from all of the support areas, from strength and conditioning and athletic training and compliance and advising that play a role behind the scenes, to having good coaches in place, to having a culture established. But we do feel like athletics can put us on a platform that raises the public perception of not only the athletic program but the university. Our president, Edward Inch, calls athletics a window to the university, and so there is an important understanding about how we resource it and how it's perceived and how successful it is. It has a lot to do that's impactful at not only the athletic department and team and sport level, but also at the institutional and community level as well.
Makes sense. I'm sure that success, as you mentioned, has made waves, not just at the athletic department, but across the university. What has the reaction been from the Minnesota State community?
Well, it started with a big welcome home event, but it was so exciting, during that run. I had lots of opportunities, and some of my most gratifying moments were, certainly as the games played out, the wins and the excitement, the drama around that was all very, exciting to be part of. but some of my best moments were sitting in the press conferences, listening to our coaches and student athletes attest to what they believed about Minnesota State. Sitting up there at the podium and a championship moment, reflecting not only just on the championship and the experience, but more at a broader level, what it meant to be part of Minnesota State and sitting up there at the dais or the podium and talking about Minnesota State being a special place and that MavFam is real. And we got a lot of questions about what is MavFam. And, that's kind of one of our hashtags. And it just really means everybody for one another. You could feel the support. We had teams back home, the football team and the softball team and the soccer team reaching out to men's basketball and women's basketball, sending them a message via text or social media, where they'd made a recording about, good luck and represent us well as an important component of Maverick athletics on a national stage. And you could feel the fan base. We would hear so much about the watch parties, and you should have seen it at this restaurant or that bar. It was just packed with Maverick fans, and you can really honestly get that lift and feel that energy hundreds and hundreds of miles away in Missouri and in Indiana of the excitement in the campus and the community. And that really, I think, motivated our student athletes to continue to excel on that national stage.
It's like a true family.
Absolutely.
And from a recruiting standpoint, this definitely puts Minnesota State on the map even more. How do you think this double championship will impact future of the program?
Oh, it's certainly garnered a lot of attention. As President Edge, has shared a lot of the viewership statistics and the reach of those championship events, particularly the men's championship being, positioned right before Division I March Madness games. There was a huge viewership, and we continue to be contacted by alumni and other fans all across the country that said that they were tuned in and watching, and that includes prospective student athletes that I think you make that impression on, that they want to be part of that. It's one thing to go play your sport somewhere. It's another different opportunity to be able to chase championships, be they conference championships or national championships. People want to be part of that success, and yeah, we've really seen an uptick athletically, not only in the basketball programs, but in other athletic programs, and just overall, just general interest in the university as far as, that place has a winning vibe and a lot of excitement around it. That's a place that I want to attend and go to school.
It's one thing to win, it's another to sustain that success. What's next for Minnesota State basketball?
Well, as you might guess, coaches and student athletes are a competitive lot, and so when you have success in men's and women's basketball, it inspires success in other programs. And we had another top 10 finish in the NACTA Directors Cup for the past school year. We saw it as a catalyst for success this fall. We had our football team compete into the national semifinals. Our women's soccer team was able to play in the national championship game, lost in the national title game. So you had a couple other programs, inspired by that success that they saw with men's and women's basketball in the spring, use that as sort of a springboard for their own goals and ambitions in fall sports, and had 2 top 5 finishes from football and soccer.
And the women's basketball team now trying to go after a repeat performance here.
Yeah, the women are playing down in the regional tournament. A little bit of deja vu. I think they've got a familiar first round opponent in Missouri Western that started kind of the trek towards the national championship. So they'll get things kicked off in Pittsburgh, Kansas this Friday night, playing in the regional tournament down there. And I continue to think that they're going to be a difficult out. They've got a very talented team, certainly a team that I think is capable of making another deep run into the postseason.
Mhm. All right, Kevin, it is time to switch gears. We're going to go into our little back and forth called Game Time
Okay.
Decisions, where we do quick questions
Mm.
and quick answers, just like making the right call under pressure. You ready?
Sure.
All right, let's go. What is more satisfying, winning a championship or watching an underdog upset?
Well, the championships are always fulfilling, but I think it's always fun to cheer for the underdog, and so I'd have to go with that. Um, we've had some dramatic wins, and sometimes, particularly like in a sport like men's hockey, where we're a division school competing with a lot of other Division 1 teams with far larger budgets. And it's probably our 800-pound gorilla in the state of Minnesota is the University of Minnesota Golden Gophers, and we're certainly probably the underdog every time that we take them on in men's hockey, and we've had some success, and that's been very, very gratifying to see our teams that are maybe outmatched budget-wise, but, come out on top on the ice.
Preseason or postseason, which is more intense for a coach?
I would definitely say, the stakes are higher in the postseason, a lot of moving parts, and it really stretches far beyond the competition. I think people, sometimes anticipate that, the women's basketball coach is just kind of focused on getting ready for Missouri Western, or that the football coach is concentrating on their semifinal opponent, but they have a lot of work to do in terms of administration of their program, planning travel, determining roster. Sometimes there are roster restrictions in the postseason, so there's a lot more than meets the eye than just the X's and O's of coaching. So I definitely say the stakes are higher in the postseason for the coaches.
Ab- Absolutely. What's more nerve wracking, last second shot or final free throw?
Boy, I think the final free throw would probably be a little bit more nerve wracking for the individual. Sometimes they probably are holding the fate of the team and the entire season in their hands, and pending that outcome. Sometimes the final shot is a little bit more a product of the flow of the game. You don't necessarily know. Sometimes you're running a set play, and it's predetermined who's going to take that final shot. But I think that free throw, standing there on your own, having the fate of the team in your hands, is probably more nerve wracking for that individual.
I would agree. Best part of hosting a championship celebration?
Best part of hosting a celebration, I think, is probably just reconnecting those student athletes with the community. And we are very fortunate to have a passionate fan base and great interest in attendance for across the board for a number of sports. And oftentimes, those championships are out of the local area, certainly many times out of state and out of the region, and our local fans are not able to attend. But I mentioned they're following back home. They're in the bars and restaurants at the viewer parties. They're watching online. They're connecting with the team in other ways through social media, and just bringing them home and reconnecting our student athletes and that fan base is probably the most gratifying part about it. We talk about MavFam, and everybody's included in the MavFam. Everybody can be part of it, whether it's our staff, others at the university, our coaches and student athletes, our alumni, our community fans. Everybody's part of MavFam, and you could really, it becomes really a family reunion when you get to come home and celebrate that championship, and that's really rewarding to see. The connection between our fans and our student athletes. I think when we brought the basketball teams home, we had a wonderful welcome event at Taylor Center. And I think they were there for maybe an hour after the event signing autographs, but because that connection between our community, our fans, and our student athletes is so special.
Hmm. If you could add one rule to basketball, what would it be?
One rule to basketball. Um, Boy, something that would maybe make the end of the game flow a little bit better. It can, you know, it's almost sometimes agonizing for fans and others. Where that last minute or 2 minutes with all the timeouts and the fouls and those types of things. I don't know exactly what the rule change would be, but something that would maybe expedite play and move things along a little bit in the final minutes of the game.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Morning practice or late night game? What's your style?
Well, probably for me, late night games. It's interesting. People ask a lot of times, what do you do as an athletic director? Is that all you got to do is go to the games? There's a little bit more to it than that, but there's you get stretched in a lot of directions. We've got 20 sports here at Minnesota State, and it won't be unusual for us to maybe have sometimes 5 or 6 events in a weekend. And you could have hockey downtown, you could have
Sure.
basketball in Taylor Center, and right down the hallway in the field house have track and field competing. And so there are a lot of long days and long nights getting around to watching all of our student athletes compete. But it's so rewarding. It's really about obviously the student athlete and their experience, and going to get a very unique opportunity this weekend to go out. Division II has what they call a Winter Sports Festival. They don't do it every year; they do it every 4 years. And unique opportunity to be out in Indianapolis, and our swimming and diving programs, our wrestling team, and our track and field programs are all competing out there. And so I'm looking at my schedule and trying to figure out just getting around Indianapolis and seeing all those student athletes uh, be able to compete on that national championship stage.
Busy weekend ahead. All right, final question for you. Super Bowl or March Madness if you could only watch one?
It's all about intercollegiate athletics for me. I mean, I've oftentimes thought about, I've asked myself those same questions about, what would be the preference, the professional pinnacle or the intercollegiate pinnacle in terms of being able to attend those championship events, and it's intercollegiate athletics all day for me.
Well, Kevin, this has been incredible. Congratulations again to you, your coaching staff, and the men's and women's basketball teams on a historic season. Before we go, what is one piece of advice that you would give to young athletes or coaches who are looking to build a championship culture like the one you've established at Minnesota State?
I think probably, and it's hard to, I think that they don't know that they're getting indoctrinated to this. It's a little transparent to them. I think oftentimes their focus as a young student athlete is just on their sport and their teammates and those types of things. But I would encourage them to look at it more holistically, and to not only make friends amongst their teammates, but to stretch that out, stretch that social circle out to meeting other student athletes, enriching themselves across the entire collegiate experience, and really looking for what are the translatable skills, what are the experiences that you'll take out that will set you up for the next stage of your life to be successful, both personally and professionally.
That Kevin, thank you so much for joining us. Minnesota State just set the bar for greatness. This is going to be a tough for anybody else to match.
Thank you so
And
much.
that is, yeah,
Mhm.
we appreciate your time today. That is going to do it for today's episode of Building a Champion. Big thanks to Kevin Buisman for joining us and giving us an inside look at Minnesota State's incredible double championship season. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with your fellow sports fans. Until next time, keep building champions on and off the court.